Well, good morning, friends. This is Pastor Jeff with a word of encouragement for today, Thursday, December 9th. This week we've been looking at the life and ministry of John the Baptist. Matthew 3:1-5 says this: In those days, John the Baptist came preaching in the desert of Judea and saying, Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near. This is he who was spoken of through the prophet Isaiah, a voice of one calling in the wilderness. Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight paths for him. John's clothing was made of camel's hair, and he had a leather belt around his waist. His food was locust and wild honey. People went out to him from Jerusalem and all Judea and the whole region of the Jordan. Confessing their sins, they were baptized by him in the Jordan River. Well, John the Baptist had an unconventional ministry, to say the least, but in this passage, we'll see that John and his ministry were actually prophesied or predicted by the Old Testament prophets more than 700 years before his birth. The first clue that our writer Matthew comes out with right away is, well, he just says it. He says, this is he who was spoken of by the prophet Isaiah, a voice of one calling in the wilderness, who would say, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight paths for him. Again, God revealed this through the prophet Isaiah 700 years before John was even born. It's pretty amazing. Well, another prophetic clue that some readers might miss in this passage is that of John's clothing, which was made from camel hair and leather. It was quite unusual for someone of a priestly line as John was. You remember Pastor Doug saying that John's father was Zechariah, one of the temple priests in Jerusalem. So coming from a priestly line, it would be quite unusual. It would make sense that John would have worn fine embroidered linens and would have conducted his affairs in the temple courts. But to the contrary, Matthew says John wears clothes of camel hair, coarsely sewn, and leather belt, and he preached not in the temple, but out in the desert. Now, Matthew's gospel was actually uniquely crafted to a Jewish audience. And when they read camel hair and leather, their mind would immediately go back to the prophet Elijah, who wore the same type of clothing, also 700 years earlier. That's in the book of 2 Kings. And we'll read later in the Gospel of John that the Jewish leaders actually asked John the Baptist if he was the prophet Elijah. And that's always seems kind of strange to me since it's now 700 years later, but hey, I guess they were wearing the same outfit, huh? No, I think the first century Jews were very aware of the prophetic significance of the life and ministry of John the Baptist. Another interesting thing that Matthew writes about John was that his diet was that of locust and wild honey. Now, these would also have prophetic symbolism to the first century Jews. In the Old Testament, locusts were a symbol of judgment. You may remember the plague of the locusts that God sent on Egypt in the days of Moses. And how many times in the Old Testament it would speak of locusts coming to devour the land and bring the judgment of God. Yeah. He also had, his food was also honey. Taste and see that the Lord is good. The Jews would automatically remember and think of him calling them to the land of milk and honey as they left Egypt, and how the Lord had provided for them miraculously along the way. John's unlikely diet of locust and wild honey spoke of both the consuming judgment and the sweet salvation that was coming in Jesus. And sweet it is. Friends, John's words still ring out to us. Prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him, and repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.